I lost all of my Dallas vlog footage. What up? It's your brother Khalid. I'm back. This is day, I don't even know what, again, out of my comfort zone. It's been a minute since I've clicked this camera on. I've just been busy and honestly just forgetting to click the camera on. But you all will see some of the things that I've been doing over the last few months. I don't know if I've mentioned it in a clip before this or not, but I lost all of my Dallas vlog footage. And that was kind of like the last real vlog that I put together. So everything you all see in this is kind of just what I've been doing over the last few months. And we're going to start fresh. We're going to get back into it. We're going to roll into it nice and slow and get back. Today's Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. Charlie Kirk just got assassinated. Crazy to say that. What the world is coming to, I have no idea. The times we are living in, not that I agree with everything Charlie Kirk says, especially his stance, like many people's stance on what's going on in Palestine, in Gaza, what's going on with our brothers and sisters over there. But one thing I will say is that I don't ever think it's acceptable for someone to be assassinated for their opinion. I just that to me is just it's insane, bro. It's insane. It's just like, the attempted assassination of President Trump. A lot of people applauded that. A lot of people were happy about that. Me personally, I wasn't jumping up and down for it. I don't think Trump has done that much that's really that crazy to be celebrating someone attempting to assassinate. If we're going to celebrate the attempted assassination of somebody, let it be somebody like Netanyahu. You know what I mean? Then we can start cheering. These people have not really done much to us. And when I say us, that's a multifaceted us. That's a us. That's a us as in the believers. That's a us as men. That's a us as not a part of certain alphabet communities, right? Like that's a multifaceted us. And these people have not really done that much to us. What bothers me about it is we're celebrating a man being in front of his family. I think he had a wife and kids for having an opinion. He's not a politician. He doesn't have any kind of political power. He doesn't really have any power other than his voice. But then at the same time, the people that are actually in positions of power, that are actually doing things that affect us on a day-to-day, no one ever really does anything. It's fake to me, bro. I'm gonna be real. It's fake to me. I heard Dr. Umar say one time in an interview, black people want to essentially put in the least amount of work but get the most out of it, in so many words. Like when we get together to go out and vote, when we know that either side we vote for, it doesn't really benefit us in the slightest. When it comes to bringing our communities together, getting married, raising productive children, investing in each other, buying into our community instead of buying out, we're not putting that work in on a day-to-day basis. That standard is the standard across the board of all groups of people, all communities right now, which is why, with the exception of some, but we won't talk about those communities. We know what communities are sticking together and investing in each other and taking over almost everything. We know what communities those are. The question is, why is it that us as believers, as Muslims, why are we not coming together? The question is, why are we as black people not coming together? And although this has nothing to really do with Muslims or black people, I'm just speaking as a black man who's a Muslim. It's a sad sight in history where it's a sad point in time in which a man can get assassinated in front of a crowd of hundreds, if not thousands of people. And all he ever did was give his opinion. And because I've seen some Muslims celebrate this, and I really want Muslims to understand something and black people. when y'all celebrate these things, remember that the tide could turn very quickly. Very quickly, that mirror that's pointed outward can start facing inward. And we will have to be accountable for responding to that same level of hate that these people are getting for their opinion. We actually are upon something that is life-changing. We are actually upon something that could change the entire fabric of the Western world because we're upon truth. So imagine what would happen when that mirror is turned inward. Just not last Friday, but the Friday before, I was at Juma, and the brother that was giving the khutbah, he spoke about how divided the Muslim ummah is and how we just allow for too much to happen to us. And I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with what he was saying. I'm gonna try to put a clip of the khutbah in here. I think I recorded some of it. I couldn't agree more. It's time to take back our power. It's time to really invest in ourselves and one another, because this world, bro, I'm telling you, it's getting wild, bro. It's getting crazy. They tried to assassinate Trump twice. They you gotta be careful what you say on here. They just unalived Charlie Kirk in front of the world for just giving his opinion. So what happens when they start trying to do things to us for giving our opinion? Be careful what you celebrate. Stay prayed up. Pray for the protection of Allah and tie your camel. Make sure that you are preparing yourself for, I don't want to say the inevitable, but make sure you're preparing yourself for what could potentially happen. Because remember, they just killed a man for his opinion. Whenever I got it, everything we've done so far, I got edited. So.
Make some clips. I'm on make the
logo. Yeah, we could do shorts.
What's
we just need a logo, and then we could drop them. If y'all want to drop them in order, if y'all want to do this one we just did like a little bit earlier.
No, we do the order. Yeah, do the order.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to do a logo like with all four of us on a card. I had all.
I already know what you're saying. When you said that, I was like, that's all.
Yeah, was that?
He's like that. You freaky as hell. I'm proud of you to be freaky, because if it wasn't for you being freaky, I wouldn't been here. AJ, wow, bro. That nigga is funny. Yeah, I can tell. No, bro, to be a 12-year-old, you like my little brother. Like, I don't even be getting mad at him on your father's son shit. This is be like your brother shit.
Man, just about to go back. I gotta go back to my duplex. I got some little cleaning up to do over there. Just trying to hit one room every day and just knock it out.
Yeah. What I did was that, I throw festivals, right?
Yeah.
So for me, being at a festival unites every single thing you could possibly do as a content creator, because you do videography for them, you get to be right around all the media passes and shit like that, so you get your shit seen by the right people. The city backs it, the state backs it, so then when you do anything accreditation-wise, you good. You get a local politician, not to necessarily comment on your stuff, but just to see that, oh, by the way, are you guys local?
Yeah.
So if you go to, what's it called, GCAC,
I just had some thoughts and opinions that I wanted to get off my chest and throw at y'all, man, about this Charlie Kirk situation. I don't know if this will end up making it to the vlog or if this will become its own, or if this will be its own little clip that'll make it on the channel. I'm not sure. It might be both. I don't know. Depends on how I'm feeling. Let me get straight into it. I'm not celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, and I don't think you should either. Why do I say that? Why do I say that as a black man when he said all these offensive things towards black people? Why am I saying that when I'm a Muslim and he said all these offensive things towards Muslims? It's a multifaceted issue. Do I think Charlie Kirk was a racist? I could hear an argument for it. I've seen some clips of some things that he said against black people that I'm personally not a fan of and I'm not in agreement with. I've heard him say things about Muslims that I'm not in agreement with, particularly his stance on what's going on right now in Gaza, what we've seen happen to our Palestinian brothers and sisters. On my podcast called the Another Interview Podcast, this was probably in like 2020, 2021. I'll try to put the clip in. I said, how can you feel what a group of people feels when you've never experienced it? And at that time, I actually used I might have to bleep that out, as an example of what their people went through in the Holocaust and how I will never be able to relate to that. I'll never be able to feel what they've felt. I didn't grow up hearing those stories of what happened to their people. I didn't grow up hearing those stories in the household. Just like they never grew up hearing the stories of what happened to African slaves and how that has affected African Americans in a disproportionate manner. I can feel for them, but I'll never be able to feel what they feel because it's not my culture, it's not my history, and that's okay. Do I have to feel sympathy for them? Is that a necessary reaction? No. I don't have to feel sympathy for them. Do I? In some ways I do. In some ways I do. Do I have to? No. And the less I actually know about the situation, the less I'm going to actually feel for the situation. And of course, I'll never be able to feel what they feel because it's not something that happened to me or my people. If I give my opinion on that situation, there's always going to be a distinction between what I'm able to learn from an academic perspective and what I'm able to feel from the stories being passed down, the movies that I watch, the history of it that I feel a personal attachment to because it happened to my people. So if I'm having a conversation with someone who has never experienced, has no closeness to the situation at hand or the situations of the past, the only way they can even have a conversation is based off of statistical data, history books, stats that compare things that happened in history to today. They'll never have that level of empathy or sympathy for a situation that they have no relation to. And so as black people, the reason that I set that as an example, before I say that, I made a post on Facebook where I asked a question about free speech. I'll post that right here. And I'll post some of the comments. One of the comments that stood out to me was speaking about how white people should, I guess, be more careful with the approach they take to speaking about black issues. And I said, I don't think people should have to walk on eggshells. Why do I not think people should? Why do I think white people should not have to walk on eggshells? Because how would you? We're already creating this unrealistic expectation of our interaction as black people with white people that they'll never live up to, ever, because they don't know how it feels to be black. They never will. All they can do is watch movies and read books. That's not enough. It's just like the issue of police brutality. The first thing a non-black person who wants to defend police will go to is the numbers. And they'll say, well, police shootings don't happen that often, which they don't. They'll say that the majority of people who are killed by police are not black, which they're not. More white people are killed by police. They look at the numbers because that's all they have to articulate a point. But as a black person, especially a black person growing up in the inner city, especially if you grew up in gang culture, and I'm not saying growing up in gang culture as you are a gang member, but your friends may have been gang members, your parents may have been gang members, you've seen it, you've been around it. We know how it feels when a police officer gets behind us. There's no statistic that can articulate that feeling. So if I'm not able to have a conversation with them in a language that they can understand, it's no point in having the conversation with them about something they can't understand. Because all they have is to go off of numbers. What we're talking about is not a numbers conversation. It's not a statistical conversation all the time. Sometimes it is a conversation based off of feeling, and feelings are valid. Emotions are valid. Experience is valid, but you have to be aware of who you're having the conversation with, the setting that you're having the conversation in, to be able to have true understanding and wisdom of how to approach a conversation or when to not approach a conversation at all. You have to have true understanding and true wisdom to know how to approach a conversation or when to not approach a conversation at all. I said that twice for a reason. And I'm leading to a greater point of why we shouldn't be celebrating this death as black people. I saw someone post, and if I find the post, I'll put it on the screen, where they said that they had a Christian friend who could not understand why people were celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Because this friend looked at Charlie Kirk as this great Christian man. But this person had never seen his, I call it shock jock rhetoric, because I don't believe Charlie Kirk was a racist. I think he said things that were offensive, but I don't necessarily think he was a racist. But that's a conversation for a different day. These supposed racist things that he said, this person had never seen it. So these people are living in two completely different worlds. Although we're living in the same world on the same planet, perception becomes reality. Getting to the point of why I say we should not celebrate this man's death. I see people all the time when people pass away like Charlie Kirk who have these this shock jock rhetoric, these stances. It's no different than when people were celebrating the assassination attempts on President Trump. People were applauding for that because they don't like what these men say. Now, the difference between Charlie Kirk and Trump is Trump actually is in a position of political power. So I can kind of understand that a little bit more. I still don't think it's right, but I can understand it a little bit more. Charlie Kirk is someone who gives his opinion on the internet. He has no political power. Other than his level of influence on the internet, he's just talking. People associate people's death with the will of God. Oh, he died because the things that he said. He went out the same way that he used to speak. As if you really know why God chose to take his life at the time that he did. You don't know. God did not whisper in your ear that, hey, I made sure Charlie Kirk died because of all the offensive things that he said. He did not whisper that in your ear. So when you speak about this from a spiritual perspective, understand what you're really saying. And I only really ever hear Christians talk like this, which is ironic because you have Christians celebrating the death of another Christian. I am in no way saying that people have to be empathetic or sympathetic or shed tears or post a RIP post for Charlie Kirk. If you disagree with him, you disagree with him. If you didn't like him, you didn't like him. That's perfectly fine. You are fully in your right to feel that way. But understand something. None of us get to choose how we go or when we go. None of us. That's why Allah says in the Quran, even if you were to be in lofty towers, death will still take you. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how righteous you are. It doesn't matter how much of a believer you are. It doesn't matter how much of a non-believer you are. It doesn't matter if you're in lofty towers, if you're homeless. It doesn't matter. Death will come to every single last one of us. To speak as though the way in which we go has some correlation to what we say and do and the opinions we hold, you will never be able to articulate that or justify that from any form of a solid foundational perspective, any kind of academic. It's speculation. It's speculation. That's all it is. It sounds good, but it's speculation. Unless God directly tells you otherwise, which he hasn't, because you're not a prophet, you're not a messenger, and we know that the last and final prophet and messenger is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So speaking as if you have the ability to know these things is strange to me. It's very strange to me. Why do I feel like we should not celebrate this as black people? Shortly after Charlie Kirk passed away and all the celebratory actions of us as black folks came, there were several HBCUs that were put on lockdown because of the threats of what we would assume to be white men and women, possibly. The reality of this situation, y'all, is it don't have nothing to do with us. It wasn't a black man that killed Charlie Kirk. It was someone who looked like him who killed him. And it was someone who was a proponent of the LGBTQ plus, forgive me if I get that incorrect, the LGBT community. It was someone who was a supporter of them. Has nothing to do with us. He didn't die because he was a racist. He likely died because of his views on the LGBT community, because of his rhetoric against the leftist movement of this behavior being acceptable in our communities, being something that should be taught to our children and things of that nature. This is likely what he died over. That's where all the evidence that we have so far, the information we have so far, that's the direction it's pointing in. It's not pointing in the direction of someone killing him because of what he said about black people. This ain't our fight. This ain't our fight. But what ends up happening, like always, because in the Western world, especially in America, there is this push for a divide between white people and black people. And unfortunately, we as black people draw the short end of the stick. Why? What the media aims to do, it's just like they do when someone is shot by the police. The messaging that is put forth is this divisive messaging of it being a white versus black thing, a police versus black thing. When if you go back to what I was pointing out in the beginning, it's already a conversation that we are not on equal footing because they don't understand our perspective. And until they're able to understand our perspective, which they never will, All they can argue is the numbers. So what ends up happening is they make a issue that we can feel and we've experienced. They belittle that situation because the numbers don't match our emotion that is invested into it. We can't argue with the numbers, they can't argue with the emotion. But what can we what is what perspective is able to be proven? What can we put on paper? Numbers. We can't put emotion on paper. We can't put experience on paper other than us just telling a story. And at the end of the day, it's just that, a story of what happened, what we experienced, what we saw, what our friends have been through. But they weren't there to see it. They weren't there to experience it. No different than I wasn't there to experience the Holocaust. No different than I didn't grow up in a family whose grandparents and great grandparents experienced it. I'll never be able to relate to it. All I'll ever have is numbers. As black people, people were upset with me because I said we shouldn't be celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. I'm not celebrating it, and it's strange, and I would go as far as to say it's borderline demonic to celebrate anyone's death, especially for difference of opinion. Now, if you want to celebrate the death of someone who's actually causing real harm to people, like a Benjamin Netanyahu, whenever he goes, hey, you won't hear nothing from me. You know, you know what I mean? If if you want to celebrate people like this, people who are real evil individuals, then so be it. But what ends up happening when we're celebrating the death of a man because of his opinion that we disagree with, we end up becoming the aggressor. We end up becoming the demonic one, right? And so what happens in the media, which is what I was getting to, they paint this white versus black divide, this war. And quite frankly, as much heart as we have as black people, as much as we would like to believe we are fully capable of all these things, we're not prepared to go to war with these people. We're not. We're too far divided amongst our people. We're far too divided. This isn't our fight, bro. Really, in a nutshell, this really isn't our fight. It's something that we've inserted ourselves in that we didn't have to be in. And it bothers me because we allow our emotions to drive the way we react publicly. And all that does is give these particular groups the ammunition that they need to have in their mind, to have that green light to attempt to do things to us, whereas if we would have stayed silent, that would have forced a different conversation for them to have with themselves about issues that has nothing to do with us. This should have been a LGBT right-wing issue. That's really what it should have been. This should have been a white on white crime issue, right? This should have nothing to do, it has nothing to do with racism. He got killed by a white man in front of a crowd of majority white people. It has nothing to do with us at all. It has nothing to do with us. Many people will take the things that I'm saying and say that I'm trying to defend a white man. I could care less. I could care less. It's not that I'm defending a white man. It's that as black people, bro, we have to learn where to invest our emotional capital and where not to invest our emotional capital. Where are we going to see some return on investment when we put some emotion into things, and what's going to come back to bite us in the ass if we put some emotional feelings and things? Because when we speak out in public, that's our voice collectively, regardless of if you want to say, black people are not a monolith or whatever. We are, at the end of the day. Unfortunately, we get all grouped together, and so the opinions that some hold get placed on the entirety of the group. I'm not saying that's fair, but it's the reality. And we need to understand when to stay silent, because staying silent forces their hand to have a conversation about their actions versus trying to pass it off onto us. This dude, look, this dude who killed Charlie Kirk. So far, the information, like I said, is pointing towards he had this transgender partner. I don't know if it was a she, her, or he, him, or they, them, or I don't know. He allegedly had this transgender partner, and they're saying this was a motivating factor. This should be a conversation about violence from the LGBT community when it comes to conservative values. It shouldn't be nothing to do with race, because it has nothing to do with race. But now it does have something to do with race, because we were too emotional to sit back and just watch how they interact with each other. And we allow the media to make billions of dollars pushing these stories as a race issue or a racial divide when it has nothing to do with it. We should have forced the hand of the media outlets, the news outlets, to have a conversation about violence from the LGBT community and bigotry from the right wing side of the political spectrum. That should have been the conversation. But the low hanging fruit is what we allowed them to do by not being emotionally strong enough, not having enough emotional fortitude to look past the things that this guy has said about black people in the black community. Instead of saying, hey, you know what, he said some things about us, but this ain't got nothing to do with us, let's just watch how this pans out. Instead of doing that, we had to speak. We had to speak. And not only did we speak, we spoke with some of the most disgusting things that you can do, which is celebrating the death of somebody. If you are truly God-fearing, and I don't care if you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, I don't care what you are, understand that it is God's will. We will go when we go, how we go, by his will. And God forbid God forbid your opinion become the opinion that is unpopular, because does that then justify someone taking your life? I've seen people put the picture of Martin Luther King and Charlie Kirk together. I think that's insane. Whoever made that. Charlie Kirk couldn't even stand next to MLK on his best day. But don't you think that the racist racist white folk, don't you think they celebrated MLK's death? Don't you think they celebrated Malcolm's death? Because their opinion was outside the norm. You have some opinions that are probably outside the norm. I will honestly tell you, I have some opinions that are probably outside the norm, that if I was to really speak about publicly and it become as big as Charlie Kirk's platform, they would probably want to do something to me too. I don't mind that. It's okay. The point being is, no one should be killed for their opinion. No one should be killed for their opinion, especially not in public, in the way in which it was done, for his wife and his children to be able to see. And furthermore, for all of those thousands of people that were in the crowd, many of whom disagree with him, for them to be traumatized by. So understand what we're celebrating. It's not as simple as Charlie Kirk losing his life. What we are celebrating is multifaceted because of what he stood for, the way in which he went, who he lost his life in front of, and what the outpour of it is on social media. Sometimes we need to learn to stay silent, because silence at times, not always, but at times, will be our greatest benefit as black people and as Muslims, because they already look to us to be these violent, combative, disrespectful individuals. And unfortunately, these groups, the groups that the media, the right and the left, the so-called white people, not all of them, but the ones who fall into these categories, what they are masters at is gaslighting. They're masters at gaslighting. And as black people, we are smarter than this. We are more intelligent than these tactics that they use. It happens time and time again, and it only hurts us because we are not prepared for what comes next. On the Breakfast Club, I'm gonna end with this. On the Breakfast Club, they asked Jasmine Crockett if she feels a need to be more protected, or if she fears something like this happening to her. I don't think her opinion is radical enough. Her opinion is pretty much the normal opinion of the more left-leaning side of the population. But if something was to happen to her, I would have to say we as black people have to have some accountability for the target that we've placed on her back by the way we reacted to one of theirs, because in their mind it's justifiable to take one of ours, because it won't be her opinion that would, because her opinion is already the majority held opinion on most issues. Her opinion is not progressive in, I shouldn't say progressive because progressive comes with it. It's not different enough from what's already taking place from the left side of the political spectrum. It doesn't really derail from that enough to where people on the right will be motivated enough to do something to her, unless they're just doing it from the perspective of her being a black woman in politics. Silence sometimes is going to be the greatest weapon we can use as black people. Our emotions and understanding when to control our emotions, and to know when a conversation is a statistical conversation and when it's an emotional conversation. It's like when people say never bring a sword to a gunfight. Never bring your emotions to something that can't be proven with emotion. It's only justifiable to you and to me. It's not justifiable to people who are outside of our community and our experiences. And so unless you're going to have that conversation from an academic perspective, from a statistical perspective, unless you're intending to have that kind of conversation, don't even interact with someone like a Charlie Kirk on black issues, because you're going to lose 10 times out of 10. You're going to lose 10 times out of 10 because you're bringing a knife to a what? To a gunfight. I think that's all I got to say about this, man. It really, it saddened me more than anything to see my people react in such a, it's just beneath us, bro. It's beneath us. We're far greater than that. And I'm not saying it from like a nationalistic perspective of black people are better, but it's the low hanging fruit, bro. It's too easy to get down in the weeds. We don't have to go low with these people. And it's not even necessarily about going high when they go low. It's just, we don't got to go with them nowhere. We don't have to interact with these people or say nothing about stuff that don't have nothing to do with us, because we lose every time. We lose every time. And unfortunately, our children who are at these HBCUs, our peers, our brothers, our sisters, they're the ones who end up losing in the end because of things we just can't bite our tongue on the internet. If you want to laugh about it in private. If you want to celebrate it in private. Because anything that comes to the public, it becomes an issue for all of us. Anyway, man, at the end of the day, man, get right with God, because the prophet, he talked about many of these things. He talked about how when we see these issues coming time and time again, one issue after the other, we just had this earthquake over here and this tsunami over here and this person, and death is becoming more prevalent, and we are becoming a more lawless society. The Prophet Muhammad, he spoke about these things, man. Every prophecy that the Prophet Muhammad has given that should have come to pass by this time, it has come to pass. There's no truer evidence for someone being a true prophet than what the Prophet Muhammad has done. And it's for that reason that I say the shayateen, the devils, they're rampant. They are running rampant right now. And it's important for us to all die. It says in the Quran, do not die except but in a state of submission. Do not die except but as Muslims. And that's a reminder to both us as the Muslims and for the people who are not Muslim who may be watching. Open up that Quran. Start reading about the Prophet, the life of the Prophet, and understand what we believe and why we believe it and what the evidence is behind it. Because we are, I'm not going to say we're living in the end of times, but it seems like we're getting pretty close if we're not already in the end of times, bro. And it's just, these situations are a reminder. Death is not going to be foreign to anyone. Not you, not them, not me. It's not going to be foreign to anyone. Anyone, any and everyone, every soul shall taste death. Some bars in that Quran, man. I'm telling you. Y'all think y'all rappers be having some bars? Nah, you know, Allah done said some things, man. That's just, you know, but hey, either way it goes, bro, I just want to leave y'all with the blessings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings and guidance and protection of Allah be upon each and every single one of us, all of the Muslims, all the believers, all of the mu'mineen. May Allah bless us all and protect us all, because it's getting scary out, bro. But the only thing worth fearing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's your brother Khalid. Glad I got that off my chest, man. I appreciate y'all for coming to my TED Talk. You know what I'm saying? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, man. Allah.
Hey,
What's up?
where you at?
I'm over by the old Target. I'm doing a video.
And I interrupted you?
I figured you would be calling me at some point.
I'm like, you still in the same location?
Yeah, I'll be there in a minute.
All right, dude. Take your time.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Moms always be checking on you.